Hello guys,
Hi.
my name is Kesintin Osamudame Ehigiato. With me in the studio is...
Ebuefumiton Lucia.
Can you tell me what you understand by the clause shame culture?
Okay. I'd like to say that before something can be called a culture, it means that it has like a standard, it has a norm, and it's something that people have come to recognize with time. So shame culture is simply that particular notion that people have that tells them that they are not good enough and they have a particular issue and they should keep it away from other people. So it basically makes you feel like you're not good enough to be out there, yes, in the society. And many a times it affects the person mentally, physically. You could even see literally that, oh, this person is ashamed of himself or herself.
Wow. How do you think shame culture affects the heads of people in general?
Okay. Shame culture, like I said, is something that it begins from the mind because you start to feel most times it may not even be that someone has come to tell you outrightly that you are this, because it has a lot to do with sometimes your parents and the way you are. And one of the things that I've come to see is that in your mind you tell yourself that people are looking at me, people are watching me, people are judging me, and this can lead to depression.
Of course.
At the end of the day, yes.
People withdrawing to
Withdrawing to yourself. And in this case, when we're talking about health, you begin to not want to seek that care that you actually need, yes, because you don't want to open up to say, okay, this is what I'm going through, and then subsequently it means you can't go for treatment, because if you can't even tell your doctor about it, there is no way they are going to be able to help you at the end of the day. So it slowly creeps into your mind, affects you mentally, and then affects your decisions as a person. So just pushes you away from doing the right thing. One of the factors is, just like you mentioned, judgment. Like people are scared to be judged by others, and that makes them not want to even say anything altogether. That feeling of being judged. Sometimes people feel like, yes, being stigmatized, because they've seen that some people that have opened up about something that they go through, people tend to push them aside. Imagine someone that comes to a class of 100 people and everyone knows that this person has AIDS, for example. You see everybody wanting to stay away, or don't go near her, you might get infected and all of that. That alone is enough to make you feel like, oh my god, maybe I should even stay indoors forever, that kind of thing.
What do you think? What are some examples of instances where shame culture hasn't really allowed people to talk about what they're affected by?
Okay, thank you. One of those examples is being obese, for example.
Yeah.
Like you are on the big side. I think that's the actual word for it. Being on the big side. You look at other people going to the gym. These days, when you go to the gym, people have this standard that, oh, there's a particular way you should even look in the first place. So they've forgotten the fact that you're actually going to the gym so you can improve on your physical self. But when they see someone who is really on the big side going to the gym, you see them start laughing,
It's
or,
crazy.
or gossiping, by the wayside and those kind of things. So when you walk into that kind of setting, there is no way that you're not going to feel, ashamed of yourself and your body, and then you don't get to portray that confidence that you should naturally have. Another thing is people with eating disorder.
Wow.
If you have an eating disorder, most of the times it happens within your womb. Oh, she doesn't eat, so you just hear them say it like that's just your thing. They use it, they tag you along with it. She does not just eat. Another very common one is mental disorder.
Wow, this one is
huge.
Super huge.
Super huge. Like when you have a mental disorder, people immediately want to disengage and not have anything to do with you as a person. And I think I've met a couple of people who suffer from this bipolar disorder, and their moods tend to change and everything. Now people just look at them like they are a weakling or they're weaklings, so they're not strong enough. Yes, you hear them say something like in Nigeria, nothing like that, so stop doing this Oibo thing, they just tag them as
something weak. That it's something that really affected
yeah. could be that it's even a trigger that caused it, but nobody wants to look at that side.
Wow.
Especially if it's a guy, they'll tell you that you should man up and get over this whole thing, which is a big problem. So that kind of person would definitely not want to step outside to say that I'm going through a mental disorder, or I have like this mental stress thinking that I'm going through.
Amazing.
Those are like some
Amazing.
examples.
So, in fact, it's actually bigger than we are seeing it. It's a huge problem that we all need to address. I used to know a lady then who, this lady was, in fact, she was one of the people I know that kept a top-notch personal hygiene. But she had this problem of chronic eczema. She had this eczema all over her face, and when most people see her, the first thing, especially Nigerians, the Nigerian thing now, the first thing they say is, this one on the back way. It's crazy, but it just wasn't because of a personal hygiene, but rather a deep skin disorder. So I think we all need to put our hands on the deck and look for a way to really address this shame culture. Allow people talk about what they are plagued by, so they can get the needed help. So that's amazing.
You actually made a very, very valid point.
Of course.
Because if they don't talk about it, it could lead to depression.
Of course.
Like at the end of the day, they could just keep it to themselves. You see, suicide rate has been increasing lately. Some people, they get really, really stigmatized, and they get to the point where they're like, what's even the point of living?
Just end it all.
Yes. Then you see, they do not have a good self-esteem anymore. When they're in a group of, people, they do not want to talk. They just want to keep to themselves. Those kind of traits are not, good for a social individual, because men, we are supposed to be social beings, interact with one another. But by the time you see someone, secluding themselves, you know that there's already a problem somewhere. Yeah.
So lastly, how do you think we can actually address this menace of shame culture? How do you think we can make people talk about their health challenges more, so they can seek and get the needed help?
Okay. First of all, I think we'll start from the external environment, because the kind of conversation we are having is one that people have to talk about more often. Like if you have this kind of conversation out there, people would get their awareness that this thing actually exists. Because a lot of people just hear shame culture, they don't really understand what it means. So having sessions like this where you get to explain to people that this is how it affects individuals,
it actually exists.
Yes, it will make them more conscious about those around them. So it would fundamentally help that person that is going through a particular shame within
phase.
Yes, that phase will help them go through it, because they have the support that they actually need. Yes. Another thing is a manner of approach. Like if you see someone who is ill, there's a particular way that you should address the person.
Of course.
Yes. Because I remember there was a particular time I was really, really ill, and I got up from a chair. I was seated on a chair, and I got up from that chair, and a friend of mine, a guy that was next to me, helped me pick up the chair. And the next thing, two men just came up and were like, why are you helping her take her chair? So she can't take her chair by herself. The women of these days, you can't understand. And then I now tried to explain that I'm actually feeling very ill. That's why. They were like, oh, so if you get to your husband's house now, this is how you want to do if you're ill.
Just imagine.
Like, imagine how I felt that day, and it wasn't even my fault.
Wow.
That kind of scenario alone is enough to make me feel like
drawn to self and what we talk about.
So the manner of approach, really, really matters. How you approach those kind of people in that kind of situation. Then religion has a very, very important role to play.
Absolutely.
Yes. Many people would not want to have this conversation right now,
of
but the truth remains that in an attempt to show that we have great faith, in an attempt to show, I love the Bible, I love church, I believe that miracles will happen. But you see some people refuse to take drugs, refuse to take medication, just because they feel that they become less of a Christian.
I don't have anything to do with drugs.
Yes, I don't have anything to do with drugs, and this literally affects them. So if the church community would also help to make people understand that if you're going through a phase, you can actually come out of it. You can take your drugs and also pray alongside, and keep yourself fit generally.
Amazing. So you've actually heard. I just want to also use this opportunity to encourage you. You don't have to ostracize people. You don't have to stigmatize them. You just have to try to be there for them. Just give them the help they need. Give them the help they need.